The celebration in the South Pass alehouse is interrupted as a messenger arrives. Edmund the Ox lives, but the Blackstone goblins are moving to strike. Goldenfields seeks aid. Baridoc Kingston rallies his loyal followers and begins to march south at first light. The day passes. The dwarf column begins to spread out. Sickly eyes watch from the shadows as Moxis the Reanimator waits for the right time to strike. With a thought and the sweep of a hand, he orders 2 heroes of old, fresh from their barrows, to lead their ancient retinues through the dwarf column and slake his thirst for vengeance. For the forces of the dwarves, we have Baridoc Kingston, the dwarf prince, leading 19 dwarf spears, the spears of South Pass. Fazik, the level 2 dwarven wizard, he will have fleet feet and explosive ammunition. Foreground, the dwarf champion, he will be leading the Hammerheart recruits, 9 dwarf soldiers. We have the Stout Hearts, 10 dwarf archers. And we have Avhilda, the dwarf light catapult. The undead will be led by Moxis the Reanimator, a level 2 necromancer out for revenge. He has poison blades and reanimate. His formerly living apprentice, Gangrenous Hex, the level 1 lich, who has poison blades. 19 skeleton soldiers led by a skeletal champion. 19 skeleton spears led by a skeleton champion, and 10 skeleton archers. Here is the battlefield before the first turn. The undead have deployed within 14 inches of their board edge. Basically, they've had a 6-inch head start, while the forces of the dwarves have been deployed strung out along the road, halfway through a day's march. Let's start the game as always with an initiative roll, blue for the dwarves and ivory for the undead. The undead take the initiative with a 6, but because the dwarves rolled a double 1, we have a strange event. Turns out there's a sniper on the field. I get to select one of the undead units, and its officer immediately loses 1 point of health, which is rather fortuitous because champions only have 1 hit point. So let's select the unit of skeleton soldiers here, and that champion crumbles to dust. Let's begin the undead's turn by activating Moxis the Reanimator. 2 dice requiring 5s. He succeeds with a 5, and he will be casting Reanimate on the skeleton soldiers in front of him to bring that unit back up to a full 20. 2 dice, he requires 4s. 7, he succeeds. And the unit of skeleton soldiers is filled up to a full 20. Let's start the dwarf turn by activating Foreground Shield Splitter and the Hammerheart recruits. 2 dice requiring 4s. We succeed with a 10. And they will wheel on the back corner as their first action. And then advance 5 inches. On the undead turn, we will attempt to activate Gangrenous Hex. 2 dice, needing 5s. That is a 9. So we have a success. He will be casting Poison Blades onto the skeletal spearmen in front of him there. 1 dice, needing 5s. He succeeds with an 8. And so those skeletons now have poison blades. On the dwarf's turn, we will attempt to activate Fazik, the dwarf wizard. 2 dice, needing 4s. We succeed with a 5. And Fazik will be attempting to cast Fleet Feet on the Spears of South Pass right in front of him. 2 dice requiring 5s. We succeed with a 10. So the Spears of South Pass are now that little bit faster. On the undead turn, we will activate the skeletal archers. 1 dice requiring a 3. They succeed with a 7. And they will be shooting their closest target, the Hammerheart recruits. So the skeleton archers are shoot 0, +1 for having an extra rank. Shoot 1 against defense 10 means they will require 9s. They get 4 dice because the dwarven soldiers have shields. We have a single 10 there, so one of the dwarf soldiers goes down. They must then make a morale check. They receive -1 for having a casualty, but +1 for it being a shooting attack. So it's a straight roll, 2 dice, then 4s. They succeed with a 7. On to the dwarves' turn. We'll be using 3 dice to attempt to activate Baridoc Kingston and the Spears of South Pass, needing 4s. They succeed with a 4, though that was a close run thing. They will pivot on the rear corner, so let's get that out of the way. And then advance up to 7 inches. We're just going to go 5 at this stage. The undead will attempt to activate the skeleton spears. Single dice, needing 3s. They succeed with an 8. And the skeleton spears will advance 6 inches with their first action. They're not quite close enough to get into the dwarves with 3 inches. It shifts sideways. The stout hearts are next up on the dwarf side. 2 dice. Make that 3 dice because they are within range of Baridoc, needing 4s. They succeed with a 7. They will be pivoting on the officer and then shooting at their closest target, the skeleton spears. They receive 4 dice because the skeletons have shields. They are shoot 2, +1 for having an extra rank, but -1 for having manoeuvred. So shoot 2 on defense 9, they require 7s. We get 2 there. Halved because of the undead rule means the skeletons take 1 casualty. The final undead unit to activate will be the skeleton soldiers. 1 dice requiring 3s. They succeed with a 9. They will begin the activation by wheeling on the front corner. And then they will advance 6 inches. The final dwarf unit to activate will be Avhilda. 2 dice requiring 4s. We succeed with a 4 and a 5. And the first action will be to pivot. And then Avhilda will shoot at the closest target, the skeleton soldiers, receiving 5 dice, including the champion dice. Shoot 3, -1 for the manoeuvre, because I shoot 2. On the skeleton's defense of 9, means we require 7s. 1 hit there, so 1 of the skeletons goes down. Here we are at the end of turn 1. Minor damage on both sides. Let's roll initiative for turn 2. Initiative goes to the dwarves with a 6. Let's start the dwarf turn by activating Fazik. 2 dice, requiring 4s. We succeed with an 8. Fazik will be pivoting. And he will be casting explosive ammunition onto Avhilda. So 2 dice, requiring 5s. We succeed with an 8. The first unit to be activated on the undead turn will be Moxis the Reanimator. 2 dice requiring 5s. He does not succeed. That's unfortunate. He's just going to pivot slightly. Woo! Back to the dwarves, and we're activating Avhilda. 2 dice requiring 4s. We succeed with a 10. And Avhilda will be shooting at the unit of skeleton soldiers again. 5 dice, including the champion dice, because we're shooting at 4 ranks. And we currently shoot 4 because we have the spell Explosive Ammunition cast on us. So shoot 4 against defense 9 means we require 5s. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits there. That was a good shot. And 5 skeletons go down. The undead shall activate the skeleton archers. 1 dice, standing 3s. They succeed with a 3. And they will shoot at their closest target, the Hammerheart recruits. 4 dice because of shielding. Shoot 0, plus 1 for having an extra rank. Shoot 1 on defense 10, means they require 9s. We have 2 10s there, so 2 more dwarves go down. The dwarves will then have to make a morale check. They receive -2 for casualties, but +1 for it being a shooting attack. So 2 dice, they require 5s. They succeed with the 10. The dwarves will activate the stout hearts. 2 dice. They're just out of range of Baridoc, requiring 4s. They succeed with a 5. And they'll shoot at their closest target, the skeletal soldiers. 4 dice because these skeletons have shields. Shoot 2, +1 per extra rank. Shoot 3. Against defense 9, requires 6s. We have 2 there, 7 and an 8. 2 hits, halved because of the undead rule, means the skeletons take 1 more casualty. The undead will follow that up by attempting to activate the Gangrenous Hex. 2 dice requiring 5s. He fails his activation as well. Brilliant. He is just going to pivot slightly that way. So let's activate the Hammerheart recruits. 2 dice requiring 4s. We succeed with a 9. They're going to wheel on the front corner just slightly, and then advance 5 inches. The undead will activate the skeletal soldiers. 1 dice, standing 3s. They succeed with a 3. And they will advance 6 inches straight into those dwarf soldiers. The dwarves are getting a little low, so they are going to shield. So the skeletons will get 4 dice. They have fight 1, +1 for having an extra rank. Fight 2. Against defense 10 means they will require 8s. We have 1 casualty there. The dwarves fight back 4 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 2, but -1 for having already activated. So fight 1 on defense 9 means they will require 8s. Nothing there. So the dwarves definitely lost that. They make a morale check, 2 dice, -1 for casualty, so needing 5s. They succeed with a 5. And then the skeletons will push the dwarves back 6 inches. The last of the dwarven units to activate will be Baridoc Kingston and the Spears of South Pass. 3 dice, needing 4s. They succeed with a 9. And they will be advancing straight forward up to 7 inches into combat with those skeleton spearmen. Alright, so the dwarves are fight 2, +3 for having extra ranks, fight 5, versus the skeleton's defense of 9. So they require 4s on 5 dice, including the champion dice. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 casualties. Double on the 10 because it exceeded the target number by 5. and the skeletons will fight back. Also receive 5 dice, including the champion dice for the skeletal champion. They are fight 1 plus 2 for extra ranks. Fight 3 on defense 10 means they'll require 7s. 1, 2, 3 casualties. And because the skeletons have had poison blades cast on them, they cause an additional casualty for doing more than 2. The dwarves will be required to make a morale check. They are at -4 for having 4 casualties, but +1 for having more than 2 ranks, so -3, they will require 7s on 3 dice. They succeed with a 7. The skeletons suffered 5 casualties, so they're at -5, +1 for having an extra rank, -4, so they lose 2 more skeletons there. The dwarves have won that fight. They're going to choose to push the skeletons back 1 inch. Here is the end of turn 2. Let's roll initiative for turn 3. Initiative goes to the undead with a 7. The undead turn will start by activating the skeleton soldiers. 1 dice needing 3s. They succeed with an 8. And those skeleton soldiers will advance 6 inches into the dwarf soldiers. Once again, the dwarf soldiers will be shielding. So the skeleton soldiers get 4 dice. They are fight 1, +1 to have an extra rank. Fight 2 on defense 10 means they will need 8s. There is a single 10 there, so 1 more dwarf goes down as casualty. The dwarves will now fight back. They receive 4 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 2 on defense 9, so they'll require 7s. 1, 2 casualties there. So the dwarves have managed to win that one. They will be required to make a morale check though. -1 for suffering a casualty, so they will require 5s on 2 dice. They succeed with a 10. The skeletons suffered 2 casualties, but they receive +1 for having more than 2 ranks, so they suffer no further damage. And the dwarves are going to choose to push them back 6 inches. And both units count has been activated. On the dwarf turn, we'll activate Baridoc Kingston and the Spears of South Pass. 3 dice requiring 4s. They succeed with a 9, and they will simply be moving straight forward into those skeleton spears. The dwarves will get 5 dice. They are fight 2, +2 for having an extra rank, so fight 4. On defensive 9 means they will require 5s. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 skeletons cut down. These skeletons will strike back. They also get 5 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 1, +1 for having an extra rank, so fight 2. On defense 10, they will require 8s. We have 1, 2, 3 there. So the dwarves won that fight again, though they need to make a morale check. Their morale will be at -3 for casualties and +1 for having at least 2 ranks. So -2, requiring 6s on 3 dice. They fail their morale check, so they become disordered. The skeletons suffer -4 for casualties, so they lose an additional 2 skeleton spearmen. And the dwarves are going to choose to push the skeletons back by 1 inch. The undead will attempt to activate the skeleton archers, 1 dice needing 3s. They succeed with a 9. So the closest target that they can see are the Spears of South Pass, so they'll be making shots at them. It's in the front, but it doesn't matter. They'll get shielded on the flank anyway, so 4 dice. Shoot 0, +1 for having an extra rank. Shoot 1 against defense 10 means they will require 9s. There is 1 success there. So 1 dwarf goes down to arrows, and they will need to make a morale check. 3 dice because Baridoc is there. -1 for having a casualty. -1 for being disordered. +1 for it being a shooting attack. And +1 for having at least 2 ranks. It means that it's a straight roll needing 4s. Thankfully they succeed with a 9. I'll admit I was a little bit worried there. The dwarves will activate the stout hearts. 2 dice requiring 4s. They succeed with a 6. And they will be shooting directly at the skeleton soldiers there, their closest target. They'll receive 5 dice because skeletons cannot use shielding. The stout hearts are shoot 2, +1 if you have an extra rank, shoot 3 on the skeleton's defense of 9, so they'll require 6s. We have 1, 2, 3 hits there, so we halve that because they're undead, and the skeletons lose 1 more. During the stout heart's turn, Gangrenous Hex is going to pivot, and then he will attempt to activate. 2 dice requiring 5s. He succeeds with a 10, and he will be attempting to cast Poison Blades on the unit of skeleton soldiers there. So 1 dice, needing 5s. He does not succeed. His second action will then be to move 6 inches this way. On the dwarves' turn, Fazik will attempt to activate. 2 dice, needing 4s. He succeeds with a 10, and he will be casting Explosive Ammunition on Evhilda once again. 2 dice requiring 5s. He succeeds with a 7. On the undead turn, we'll be activating Moxis the Reanimator. 2 dice requiring 5s. He succeeds with a 9, and he'll be casting Poison Blades on the skeleton spearmen with the champion. 2 dice requiring 5s. He fails. Brilliant. Alright, and then as his second action, he'll be backing up 3 inches. The final dwarf unit to activate will be Evhilda. 2 dice, needing 3s. Succeed with a 9. And Evhilda will just be shooting the skeleton soldiers right in front of her. She receives 1 dice base, 2 dice for the 2 ranks of the units up to 3, and then an extra 2 for having explosive ammunition. So 5 dice, including the champion dice. We are shoot 3, +1 for having explosive ammunition, shoot 4, versus defense 9, means it will require 5s. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get double from that one there for exceeding the target number by 5. So 5 casualties to those skeletons. Ouch. Here we are at the end of turn 3. Things have definitely improved for the dwarves. The poor necromancers aren't having much luck doing anything this game, unfortunately. Turn 4 starts as always with an initiative roll. We have a 10-8 going to the dwarves. No surprises, the dwarves will start by activating Baridoc Kingston, who is currently disordered. 3 dice requiring 5s. He succeeds with a 7, so he's no longer disordered, but he may only take a simple action. We are just simply going to wheel back slightly. The undead will begin by activating Moxis the Reanimator. 2 dice requiring 5s. He succeeds with a 10, and once again he'll be trying to cast Poison Blades onto the skeleton spearmen. So 2 dice, he needs 5s. He fails once again. Great. The dwarves will activate the stout hearts. 2 dice, needing 4s. They succeed with an 8. And they will be shooting at the closest target, which is once again the skeleton soldiers. So 5 dice, shoot 2, +1 for an extra rank, shoot 3 on defense 9, requires 6s. We have 1, 2, 3 there, so that causes 1 more casualty to the skeletons. Gideon Hex will rotate just slightly during the Stout Heart's turn and then attempt to activate. 2 dice, needing 5s. He succeeds with a 9, and he will be attempting to cast Poison Blades on the skeleton soldiers there. 1 dice, requiring 5s. He succeeds with a 9. Woohoo, he's doing something. He will then advance this way to about there. On the dwarf's turn, we will attempt to activate foreground shield splitter and the hammerheart recruits. 2 dice, needing 4s. They succeed with a 10. And they will be moving twice, 6 inches, into those skeleton soldiers. The dwarves will receive 5 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 2 on defense 9, so they will require 7s. We have 1 casualty there. The skeletons fight back. They will have 4 dice, because there are only 4 of them left. They are fight 1 versus defense 10, so they will require 9s. Nothing there. So the dwarves have won that fight. The dwarves are not required to make a morale check. The skeletons will suffer 1 more casualty, because they've suffered 1 here, and then an additional 1 for having less than a full rank. The dwarves will then push the skeletons back 6 inches. On the undead turn, we'll activate the skeleton archers. 1 dice, needing 3s. They fail to activate. They can still shoot, however, so they'll be shooting at their closest target, which are the hammerheart recruits. They will receive 4 dice, because the dwarf soldiers have shielding. They are shoot 0, +1 for having an extra rank, but -1 for failing their activation. So shoot 0 against defense 10, they will require 10s. We have 1 10 there, and that one is pretty cocked, so we're going to re-roll that one. Nope, so 1 more dwarf goes down, and the dwarves will make a morale check. They have -1 for suffering a casualty, minus an additional 1 for being less than a full rank, and then +1 for a shooting attack. So they'll make a check with 2 dice, needing 5s. They succeed with a 6. On the dwarf turn, we'll be activating fazik. 2 dice, requiring 4s. Does so with a 10. And once again, he'll be casting explosive ammunition onto Avhilda. 2 dice, requiring 5s. And once again, he succeeds. The final skeleton unit to activate will be the skeleton spearmen. 1 dice. 1 dice, requiring 3s. They succeed with a 7, and they will simply move straight into combat with the dwarf spearmen. The skeletons will receive 5 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 1 versus defense 10, so they will require 9s. We have 1 casualty there. The dwarves will fight back. They receive 5 dice, including the champion dice. They are fight 2, +1 for an extra rank, fight 3, on a defense of 9, so they will require 6s. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 casualties there. The skeletons will have 2 models left. Having taken 4 casualties and been less than a full rank, they will lose the final 2 models at the end of the combat. And the dwarves need to make a morale check. 3 dice, -1 for having a casualty, +1 for having at least 2 ranks, so a straight roll needing 4s. And they succeed with a 6. That was rough. The final dwarf unit to activate will be Avhilda. 2 dice, requiring 4s, succeed on a 10, and Avhilda will be making an indirect fire attack at the skeleton archers over there. So we receive 1 dice base, 2 dice for having 2 ranks on the target, and an additional 2 dice for having explosive ammunition. We are shoot 3 plus 1 for explosive ammunition, but -1 for indirect fire. So shoot 3 on defense 9 will require 6s. Ouch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Blimmin' heck. The final unit to activate this turn will be the skeleton archers. 1 dice needing 3s. Let's roll that in the tray. They succeed. Shooting at their closest target, they'll be shooting straight at the Hammerheart recruits. They'll receive 4 dice because the Hammerheart recruits have shields. They are shoot 0 against defense 10, so they require 10s. 2 there. Wow. The Hammerheart recruits will make a morale check. 2 dice. -2 for casualties, -1 for having less than a full rank, but +1 for a shooting attack. So 2 dice needing 6s. They succeed with a 10. Here is the board at the end of turn 4. I'm going to call it there. Things have definitely not gone in Moxis the Reanimator's favour yet again. So he is going to run away with what's left of his apprentice and seek revenge another time. The Hammerheart recruits have been severely damaged, so we're going to roll a dice for them to see how badly damaged they were. Using the table in Battlesworn. A 3 plus 2 for the models remaining brings us to 5, which is light casualties, so they're absolutely fine. Well, another abysmal performance from Moxis the Reanimator. If he can't get spells off, he's losing his champions to random snipers or rabbit holes or something, who knows. Unfortunately, the undead were hampered by a lot of terrible, terrible rolls, and the dwarves, especially Avhilda, the light catapult, were rolling really well. The combination of the full stack of skeleton soldiers or spearmen and the skeletal champion has the potential to do a lot of damage, especially when combined with poison blades. I've had other games where it's done 7 or 8 models of damage in one go. We didn't get to see that this game, which was a little bit disappointing, but unfortunately luck just seems to have been against the undead. Maybe next time Moxus is going to have his revenge. We'll see. Thanks for watching. I do hope you have enjoyed it, and we shall see you next time. Cheers.